I want to welcome everybody to the Alabama Book Festival, and I just want one clarification. The title for this session says Environmentalism, and that was our working title. We changed it a little bit to Exploring Alabama's Outdoors, because I thought that kind of fit the books a little more. So, you know, but we'll be talking about the environment, so no real problem. I just wanted to clarify that. So, my name is Kim Nix, and I'm part of the Festival Planning Committee. I want to introduce our three wonderful authors that we have here, starting on the far right, and Joe Cuhaj.
There you go.
Correct spelling?
Yes.
Correct pronunciation.
You got it.
Joe is an Alabama transplant, having grown up in New Jersey, where his love of hiking and the outdoors began. He's a former radio host, both in New Jersey and Alabama. He's the author of Hiking Alabama, which I believe is in its 4th edition.
Yes.
Very popular book. Highly recommended. Hiking Through History, Alabama, as well as Hiking the Gulf Coast. His newest book is Best Dog Hikes in Alabama. So that's what we'll be talking about today. Next we have Craig Geyer, who's Professor Emeritus of Biological Sciences at Auburn University with a special focus on herpetology, tropical ecology, and biogeography. He's the author of many scientific articles as well as several books. The most recent is Lizards and Snakes of Alabama, which he co-authored with Mark Bailey and the late Robert Mount. Finally, we have Bill Deutsch, who's a research fellow emeritus in the Auburn University School of Fisheries, Aquaculture, and Aquatic Environment. He holds degrees in zoology, biology, anthropology, and aquatic ecology. Bill co-founded the Alabama Water Watch and directed this community-based water monitoring program for 20 years. He is the author of Alabama Rivers, a Celebration and a Challenge. So, welcome. I want to begin with talking about Alabama and its place in our natural resources. It's been said many times that Alabama is one of the most biodiverse states. And Bill, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the biodiversity of our state.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Thank you all for coming. Well, one of the main themes of the book, Alabama Rivers, is our world-class aquatic biodiversity. We're very biodiverse as a state, terrestrially, but we really shine in the aquatic realm. And that's where we are in the U.S. #1 in number of fishes, number of mussels and snails and turtles, and we're close second in frogs, as Craig can attest here in a little bit. But anyways, it's just an amazing story that's so underappreciated, I think, among Alabamians. They don't realize what a treasure we have right at our ankles when we're in a small stream. And a lot of those fishes, over 320 species and counting, are so colorful and beautiful. People just say it has to come from a tropical reef. You didn't find that in Alabama, but it's right there at their feet.
So, Craig, from your perspective, Alabama's biodiversity, how does it fit in with the animals, and specifically the reptiles?
It's pretty much the same story. A large part of it coming from the fact that we have so many major rivers in this state. Again, a fairly underappreciated aspect of our state, but I'd also note that I think Alabamians are pretty good at making sure that good news doesn't necessarily get to where we get too many people coming into due to our waterways, what has been done to other places. But clearly from the perspective of the lizard and snake book, the turtle book, in the Mobile Basin, there are more turtles in that part of the world than anywhere else in the world. Again, an underappreciated fact about just how diverse our own backyards really are. And so that's part of my goal as a biologist, is to make sure people appreciate all of those organisms that we have available to us.
And so y'all are more working at it from the scientific point. Joe, you've experienced Alabama's biodiversity on foot.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the things that you've seen.
Oh, it's amazing. I was doing some research for a couple of articles I was writing, and a professor at the University of Georgia called Alabama the Fort Knox of biodiversity of the United States.
Okay.
So that kind of sums up what it is. And the best way to see it, you know, unless you're going down the rivers, which you need to get paddling Alabama, check that out, is by foot. And there's just amazing things out there to see. One of my favorite places is right down where I live on the Gulf Coast. Splinter Hill Bog. It's part of the Nature Conservancy. There's actually two Splinter Hill bogs. One is Forever Wild property and the other is by Nature Conservancy. If you go to the Nature Conservancy property, right there at the trailhead, it is, they call it the most visually stunning display of pitcher plants in the world. It's just acres of white top pitcher plants out there, just amazing. And just to go through the bogs and to see all this, fantastic. There's just so many places to go see, and that's why I guess there's 4 books out now.
Yeah, yeah. There was a big story in the news about a hiker that got lost in Bankhead National Forest.
Yes.
And I'm sure that you followed that.
Yep.
What's some advice you can give someone so that doesn't happen to them? What are some things you did wrong?
Well, first thing, you don't go by yourself. That's the number one thing. You shouldn't go by yourself, but a lot of people do. They like going out there hiking by themselves. If you do go by yourself, you should always let somebody know where you're going and the route you're taking. I mean, the trails aren't really blazed up there in the Bankhead or the Sipsey. You know, you have intersections that have a sign telling you what trail it is, so it's easy to get off on little, you know, side trails, animal paths and all. But if you give them a general idea, at least they'll know where you are in case they, you know, you give them a time when you're coming home, and if you're not back by then, they can come look for you. And apparently that's what happened up here. Somebody actually drove to the trailhead and saw the car there, and they came back the next day and they saw it there again. They knew something was wrong. So they started checking on him and found out he was missing.
And luckily they did find him. I think he was very weak.
Yeah, he was dehydrated, had very little food left, but they got him out.
Yeah, so, you know, you hear stories like that a couple times every year, but I think
it's just
really
too easy to do. And in the Sipsey Wilderness, it is really easy to get off the trail. When I was writing the first edition of Hiking Alabama, my wife dropped me off at a trailhead. It was supposed to be a trailhead. Everybody said, that's the trailhead. And you start walking down a path. It looked like a path. Turns out it was just a game trail. And I ended up way into the woods. And when you turn around and look, all of a sudden there's no trail behind you. You just don't, you're not oriented. So it's real easy to do.
So, you've done several hiking books, and what led to doing one about hiking with your dog?
I felt bad for my dog. He didn't go on any, so we had to go. And it was just a culmination of things. The success of Hiking Alabama, like you said, it was in its 4th edition now. Got to the point where Falcon's now asking me all the time, so what do you want to write now? What do you want to write now? And
that's great.
That's a good thing. That's right.
Are very popular, and if you're not familiar with them, the maps that they have in here are just really fantastic. And I don't know if you had anything to do with that.
Oh yeah, they're all mine. They're all mine. The first edition of Hiking Alabama, funny story. They don't give you very much of an advance to do all the research and the writing and traveling across the state, so I couldn't afford a GPS. This was back in 1999, and if you could find one, they're expensive.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a GPS, didn't have a voice recorder or anything, so here I am walking through the woods with topo maps and measuring wheels and pedometers and compass. And
oh, wow.
You walk like 1/10 of a mile and mark it on the map and write your notes down. And that's how the maps all started, and from there it got easier. They started giving you a little bit more to help out.
What I really like about the book as well is you don't just say this hike is 2 miles long. You've got a description in tents or along the way of things that you see,
right? So
that it could be easy to stay on the trail.
Sure, and also a lot of people don't know this, but all the chapters from all the Falcon guides are available on trails.com, and so you can get GPS downloads as well of the trail. So it helps out a whole lot.
Yeah. So tell us some things that might be different if you're hiking with your dog than if you weren't. What's some
a lot of people are surprised that if you have a dog, and I guess I should talk about leash laws too.
Yeah.
Leash laws, a lot of people really hate leash laws, but there's a reason our national forests and parks, state parks, are all requiring dogs on a leash. It's not only for the safety of others, it's for the safety of your dog as well, and the environment. A loose dog, you might think they're under control, but anything can happen. Wildlife can pop up, and here they go. There's a lot of sensitive areas on a lot of the trails that we hike. You don't want them up there like Sand Glade. There's a sand glade up in Moss Rock in Birmingham. Just a beautiful place with wildflowers, and we've seen dogs just running rampant up there. It's a sensitive area. So, you know, you want to protect the environment. You want to protect them from, you know, just running loose on the trail. A mountain bike, which we share a lot of trails with now, you know, you don't want to scare them, and the dog doesn't want to get run down either.
The multi-trails are really more gaining popularity, where you have
Right.
bikers, mountain bikers, and sometimes horses as well.
Right.
All on the same trail.
Yeah, so, you know, keep them safe that way. You don't want them eating, you know, roaming off and eating a plant. You know, horses can tell, you know, a plant is toxic or not. Dogs can't. You know, they smell good, they're going to eat it. So, you know, you keep them on a leash, keep them nearby, and you know, and the thing about it, and what I was getting to after all that, was that by having your dog on the leash, you really do learn a lot more. You'll see things that you don't normally see. You know, they're roaming around, they're kind of rooting around, and they will guide you to things that you might not have noticed before. And we found that a lot with our dog Archer. He'll turn up some things.
Okay. So, is this your dog on the cover?
Nope, that's a stock cover.
That's what I thought.
They
Mr.
didn't
Dog?
like my cover.
You do have to picture your dog.
On the back, that's Archer T Dog on the back
Okay.
there.
There we go. All right, so in the beginning of the book, you list the top 5 hikes.
I do? That might have changed everything. They're all really great hikes, you know?
They are, but I want you to just say a few words about these top 5 that's here.
Okay.
Caney Creek Falls. Tell us where it is. And
Caney
what's-
Creek Falls is the
what's-
most photographed waterfall in the state. It's in the Bankhead Forest. And it's an easy mile walk into the main falls, and you go down into the canyon there, the little ravine. It's an amazing waterfall. It flows over a rock shelter. You can walk behind the shelter. It has a blue-green pool at the bottom. And no matter what time of year you go to see it, it's really remarkable. In the spring and summer, there's mountain laurel kind of framing the whole thing. And in the wintertime, there's ice, like curtains of ice alongside.
And I do agree that it's the most photographed waterfall.
It is.
We have a photo contest at Department of Conservation, and I can't tell you how many pictures are submitted of that waterfall.
If you have AT&T UVerse for your internet, your cable, the screensavers has Caney Creek Falls on it.
Yeah, if you saw it, you know. Cane Creek Canyon Preserve, where's that?
That's another place. That's Tuscumbia, just south of Florence.
Okay.
Jim and Faye Lacefield, 2 really great people. Jim is a professor of geology, I believe, at the University of Alabama. And they bought a piece of property up there, and then they bought another, and then they bought another. And I don't know how many acres this thing is now. But it, along with them buying the property, they're working with the Nature Conservancy to preserve this just remarkable landscape. It's just a canyon, just a big, long canyon formed by Cane Creek, just dozens of rock outcroppings, rock shelters with waterfalls, remarkable wildflowers all up and down the trails. Just a beautiful place to go. And if you go in, you have to sign in at the Faith Lacefield's house.
It's kind of unique that it's a private property like
Right.
that, because most of your hikes are public property or belong to a city, something like that.
And if you sign in with the Lacefields, Jim is there most of the time, and he'll be glad to take you on a tour and do a little geology with you while you're walking.
Okay, Chenobee Silent Trail Lakeshore Loop. That's in
That's the-
Talladega National Forest?
Talladega, that's right.
Okay.
And Chenobee is just a fun trail because of all the water features. If you could do it 2 different ways. You can there's a trailhead called the Turnip Seed, and it's like a mile walk to Cuhaj Falls. But what I like to do is start at Chenobee Lake, and you walk alongside the creek, and it's just waterfall after waterfall, just cascades as you're walking all along the trail. Great swimming hole too. It's a really popular swimming hole. And as you get away from the base of that creek, you start going up the side of a cliff. And it's remarkable because it's a stone walkway at that point, also with wooden gangways, I guess you'd call them, platforms. And that was built by the Alabama Institute for the Deaf and Blind. I worked with the state forest, the national forest rather, to build that. And when you get to this platform, you look down into the gorge and there's a remarkable waterfall called Devil's Den. It's just a big, long cascade. And it's really great in the fall. It's real beautiful there. And then you continue walking on, and that's when you hit Chiaha Falls from the other way, and that's a 3-tier waterfall. And just a beautiful place, and there's a trail shelter there. You can camp up there by the waterfall. It's just a really pretty place.
And I'm noticing a connection in all of these hikes. Water.
There you go.
And the next one's called Waterfall Loop.
Dogs love water.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Canyon Creek Falls is that pool at the bottom of that, dogs love that. They go in there and they splash around for a while. Good for them. And the other one was the Waterfall Loop. That's at the, now there's 2 of the Falls Loop is at DeSoto State Park.
I think this one may be Moss Rock.
Moss Rock, that's right. And again, it's just one after the other of amazing waterfalls as you walk along this little loop.
And that's near Birmingham?
That's right. It's you actually go through a really upscale subdivision with shops and everything, and you think there's no hiking here, then all of a sudden there you are at Moss Rock. And it's,
Birmingham really has a lot of hiking opportunities people may not know about.
Yeah. And there's a lot of wildflowers there. Geology is amazing. There's one rock called Turtle Rock. It looks like Gamera, the old Japanese monster. Gamera, the turtle. Looks just like him.
So the last one is George W. Folkert's Bog Trail, and I think is that Splinter Hill?
That's the Splinter Hill Bog Trail.
You've already spoken to that one.
And it's not only the pitcher plants there at the beginning. If you walk through there, through the trail, I mean, there's a lot of creek crossings and stuff, and there's actually a wide variety of carnivorous plants, like the pitcher plant. All different variety of species there as well. Small, large, that you'll see, and crayfish. You'll find them along the bogs as well. Interesting hike.
So how did you decide what hikes to include here in this particular route?
That's really hard because usually, well, for like the first edition of Hiking Alabama, I must have done 75 hikes altogether and just picked out the best ones I liked. Now it's getting easier because we visit a lot of these areas time and time again, so we just kind of cull it out what we think would be best, what would be good for dogs and for people.
Favorite hike in Alabama?
I knew you were going to ask that. Bad. I would say the Walls of Jericho, but that is probably the most popular hike now in the state. It's always got people all over the place going down there. It's
Are y'all familiar with Walls of Jericho? Okay.
If you're not, it's a neat place. It's right on the Tennessee state line. It's about a 3.5-mile walk down into the canyon. You got to remember it's a canyon, and you have to walk back out. A lot of people don't know that, or don't realize that. Once you get to the bottom there, it's an amazing bold canyon, and at the very top there's a ribbon waterfall that goes into the canyon, into the rock wall, and it comes out at the bottom. And when there's a good rainfall, after good rain, that is just shooting out like a fire hydrant at the bottom. It's just an amazing waterfall. But it's really, really popular. So, but otherwise, it's hard to pick one because every hike that I do is, has something different to it. They might have water features, but there's always something to it. Maybe
right.
History.
And I think it goes back to Alabama's biodiversity. Hikes in the north, you've got the mountains and the waterfalls. You come down near the coast, you've got a different kind of beauty.
Right.
And you've got something. I think it's divided into regions of the state.
Right, it's divided into north, central, south, and Gulf regions.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think you only hike up in the north with the mountains and the waterfalls and the canyons. But what from Montgomery down, there's still a lot of amazing hikes along the Blackwater rivers. There's a lot of historical hikes you can take to some really nice historic sites as well. There are savannas you can go see, prairie grasses you can hike through. And down on the Gulf Coast there, even though it's, Baldwin County is probably the fastest growing area in the region, there's still some great places to hike, like Bon Secour National Wildlife Refuge. You can hike transitional maritime wetlands and forests. It just takes you through a whole different environment as you're walking. It's step by step, it's changing with wildflowers, the types of reptiles you'll see there. And then it takes you out to the Gulf of Mexico and the most secluded section of beach you're going to find in Alabama. Just a beautiful place to walk along the dunes and get away from it all.
That sounds good. Y'all, our time, we are almost out. You only have our authors around.